The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
What's up, you guys? UFC Vegas 32. We go from UFC 31 straight into 32. Another week, another fight card to break down here. Although I will say this upcoming fight card is a little different than any others that we had as of recently. We got a guy that was a former champion making his return back to the cage after a very long layoff and a very unique situation too with the whole EPO and all that stuff. So I'm very, very intrigued to see how this matchup takes place. Cory Sandhagen is a guy that is absolutely no joke in the division. So TJ Dillashaw is stepping right back into the fire. I think this is an awesome fight. Other than that, there's definitely some exciting fights that I'm looking forward to. You got Macy Barber stepping in there. She's always a big name. Adrien Yanez, a guy that I've had the pleasure to have on my show, MMA Live Discussion, a guy that's been knocking everybody out. We actually have a few ex-MMA Live Discussion or former MMA Live Discussion fighters that I've had interviews with. Ewell, Hannah Goldie. Very excited to see Goldie in there. You guys know, I had her on the show, and she was one of the more intriguing episodes that I've had. So the fight card is pretty solid in my opinion. We'll be getting into that here in a second. Of course, we got to recap UFC Vegas 31. Let you guys know the plays that I targeted and that I hit and that I missed. We'll get into all that. We're going to talk about a couple little tidbits here that went on in the last couple days. I'll make that short for you guys. Of course, as always, we got timestamps below. Jump to wherever you want to go or just cruise with me through this entire episode. Either way, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. And with no further ado, let's get right into it. So, you guys knew it was coming. I did a whole video talking about this incident. It looks like Joe Schilling is getting sued for that bar incident. Some people don't like for me to reference that situation as a bar fight. Definitely wasn't a fight. A lot of you guys in the comment section were referring to it as a bar assault. There was a couple of Joe Schilling supporters backing him up. Those tough guys out there that say you shouldn't be running your mouth, otherwise that's what you get. For the most part, I feel like you guys have no clue what the real world is really like, and probably been in about a half of a fight in your entire life. But I'm just messing with you guys. But my opinion is that was a nasty, blatant assault. I'm not a Joe Schilling fan, and like I said, I'm typically a guy that's all down for the guy that's acting like an idiot to get washed, to get smacked up, and I didn't think that guy was deserving. Pretty interesting thing that came out. I didn't even really pay attention to the name of this guy, but how about this guy's name? Justin Balboa. So, shout out to Rocky Balboa. But the name Justin Balboa, this guy really couldn't take a shot like Rocky could. He went down pretty quick. I think it was the first right hook that Schilling landed that took him out, but I said that this was going to happen. I knew he would be getting sued for that. I'm actually very surprised that he didn't go to jail for it. And it's funny, in my video, I talked about, how, if this incident happened in California or Florida, because I knew Schilling was spending some time here. Well, what a coincidence. It was right at my old stomping grounds, right in Los Olas, right in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Sure, I've stomped all around that area. I've probably been in that bar. So, I know what it's like out there, and I know what the people are like, and I can imagine exactly what kind of guy that guy was who got knocked out. I'm not saying he's an angel, but Schilling is going to have to pay up. I do believe that one way or another. So, other than that, Mirsad Bektic retires from MMA. Definitely have to do a quick shout out to Mirsad Bektic. It was a little bit disappointing the way his career ended, but this was a guy I remember, looking into this guy way back in the day when he was an American Top Team product, back in the old American Top Team off Johnson Road before they built that big facility. I grew up right down the street from the old American Top Team, and this was a young kid back then, who was undefeated. He was like the number one prospect back in the day. He really was. People were very high on him, and he had a pretty solid career, but as he got older, he ended up going to TriStar, and I feel like his career never really progressed. He became a very grappling heavy oriented fighter. His striking kind of was a little bit stagnated, and I just feel like he never lived up to his potential. We've seen him get knocked out a few times. This was a guy I thought had the potential to hold gold way back in the day. So, but it was always exciting tuning in to see Bektic, especially in the beginning of his career, just because I was paying attention to him for so long. I wanted to see how far he could push it. He definitely put some money in my pocket here and there throughout his career, so shout out to Bektic. And then how about this? A lot of stuff's been coming out about McGregor having an injury before he stepped into that fight. Do you guys believe a lot of the evidence that's been coming out? I'm not going to necessarily say I completely buy it, although a lot of the evidence does seem to be true. It looks like there was something going on, but either way, you don't want to discredit Poirier for what he did in there. Definitely check some solid kicks, and not only did he check those kicks with his leg, you saw him using the elbow to defend that front kick to the midsection. So I'm just curious your guys' thoughts on that. If it is true, you got to say McGregor is a true warrior, never pulls out of fights, and you got to give him some credit there, But curious your guys' thoughts on that, so comment below there. And that's going to wrap up any MMA news that's been going on that's worthwhile to bring up. And with that, we will jump right into the recap of UFC Vegas 31. So UFC Vegas 31, as a lot of you guys knew, I had 3 plays going into that card. Although one of the fights did fall through right before the card took place. Actually chatted it up with the fighter on Instagram a little bit, and I want to talk about what he said to me. But in the first fight, we had Rodrigo Nascimento, looked very good in that fight, took out Alan Budat. How about the fact that Nascimento was getting tagged up in the first round and came out like a man on the mission in the second round? You definitely got to give him props there. This is a guy that's more known for his grappling, but you see that the striking evolving, and you got to say this guy has real heart, because you don't typically see a fighter go out there, get tagged up like that in the first round, and come reverse it in the second round. I love when you see that, which is why, I just want to say, not to harp on this, but, to say that fight with McGregor was completely over, you guys are missing it, because, look what happened in the Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler fight as well. Oliveira was getting roughed up in that first round. Then he comes out and knocks out Chandler. So, you never know what's going to happen in these fights. McGregor, maybe he could have turned the tide. Just, keep an eye on certain fights that take place like that. But shout out to Nascimento. And the next fight, Malcolm Gordon, very boring fight, just looking to grapple Figueiredo and wear him out there. Figueiredo goes for the flying knee in the third round, blows the fight. All he had to do is just stuff the takedowns and work the head movement and the straight shots, and he would have won the fight. Very, very bad fighter IQ. Sergey Morozov takes out Khalid Taha. This was my first play. It was an L here. I did have a small play on Khalid Taha. I thought that Taha would have what it takes, man. I've been a fan of his striking, his relentlessness in the octagon, even his loss against Barcelos. I thought that Barcelos is one of the better fighters in the division, so I wasn't really putting him under the fire there too much. I thought he was going to bounce back with a big win here. I think, in retrospect, I kind of see what happened, man. Morozov, I may have been judging him a little bit too much on the way he looked against Umar Nurmagomedov. And I think now that really shows how good Umar really is for what he was able to do to Sergey, because Sergey has some solid grappling himself. I didn't really see it when I was breaking down tape on him. I just didn't see what he delivered this past Saturday typically from him. I thought Taha would have been able to keep the fight standing and really work him there, and he was just scared of the takedowns, and even on the feet he was getting tagged up a little bit because he was scared of the takedowns, and it didn't play out good there. Amanda Lemos goes out there, takes out Montserrat Ruiz. I thought it was a little bit of an early stoppage. What was your guys' thoughts there? Although, beautiful strike by Amanda. She's devastating. I said it, man. She hits like a male flyweight fighter, right? Was I lying when I told you guys that? You don't see a lot of women go out there and bang like she does. And that's, once again, she did that. But I would have liked to see the fight go for 3-4 seconds longer, where Ruiz probably would have got smashed up a little bit more, or maybe she would have showed that Mexican heart and that Mexican chin, and she would have, survived that onslaught and then started to use her wrestling. Got to give the girl a chance. Daniel Rodriguez looks great once again, takes out Preston Parsons. Keep an eye on D-Rod. It's been looking great. Billy Quarantillo looks amazing, takes out Gabriel Benitez. Billy Q looked really good there. Rodolfo Vieira takes out Dustin Stoltzfus. Dustin had some moments in this fight where he could have had it, but he blew it in the third round, and that's why when I broke down this fight, I said, I really, really wanted to fade Vieira, but I had to say he would win this fight just for the fact that Stoltzfus has not been impressive. I think that Vieira is going to lose a lot of fights coming up. Mark my word on that. He doesn't have what it takes, man. He has amazing jiu-jitsu, but it's not enough. You could see that guy's missing something in there. You see him in between rounds. He's looking like he's in some type of like horrifying event. You know, he looks like he's just about to break down and cry in there, and something's off with him. Matias Gamrot takes out Jeremy Stephens. Gamrot, this guy is the real deal. He is officially on the scene. I know he had a knockout victory in his last fight before this one, but this was a whole different thing. You don't go out there and just submit Jeremy Stephens like that. I think Jeremy Stephens has never been submitted. To go out there and rip his shoulder out like that and pull off that beautiful Kimura within seconds. Big shout out to Gamrot. Miesha Tate, 5-unit play, biggest play of the card. Luckily that hit there, so it was basically a slightly profitable night, stalemate type of night for me. Miesha Tate grabbed her at almost even odds, grabbed this line early, and you guys should have all bet on it, man. Miesha Tate, if you were listening to the interviews, she said she was in the best shape of her life. She's in the best mental state of her life. I believed it. I saw the interviews, and I really believed it, and I know that Miesha Tate brings a lot to the octagon. Even from back in the day. She was a former champion in Strikeforce in the UFC. She's only 35, right? Just turned 35 or 34 there. Still has plenty left in the tank. Marion Renault's up in her 40s. I was all over that play there. And then in the main event, Islam shows up and takes out Thiago Moises. If you guys saw on Instagram, I do those little, the Teller Times, little weekly reports, man. Islam Makhachev is the new boogeyman of the lightweight division. He's the new El Kukui, whatever you want to call him. But this guy is a problem. He's going to be a major, major problem for guys in the division. Although, how about Thiago Moises getting that one little quick takedown? But it almost seems like Islam is just relaxing there and playing around. The guy is a major problem. Who do you guys want to see him fight next? Everybody's ducking him. A lot of people are going to be trying to hold out for that return Conor fight. Does Islam maybe take on a guy like Chandler? Or RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos, he's calling him out. Who do you guys want to see take on Islam next? It wasn't the best of nights as far as a fight card goes, but whatever. We move to the next one, UFC Vegas 32. I really like this one here. So here we go. As we talked about it a little bit earlier, TJ Dillashaw makes his return, his long, long awaited return. It's been about January of 2019. We're talking about 2.5 years since he stepped in there. It's been quite a while. It's a long layoff to return from, but let's not forget how solid of a fighter TJ Dillashaw was, former champion. Of course, there's the EPO questions. We're going to scroll right down to the bottom of this fight card where we got Hannah Goldie taking on Diana Belbita. Diana has lost her two and only UFC fights that she's had. Lost to Molly McCann when she was pieced up, and she lost to Liana Jojua. Got armbarred there early in that fight. In the beginning of that fight, she was looking like she was tough, man. She was looking like she had the eye of the tiger. Like she was going to go out there and try to get the victory, but makes a mental error like that. I have not really been that impressed from what I've seen from her. Hannah Goldie, as I said, a girl that I've had the pleasure to chat it up with for almost an hour. A girl that's very, very physically fit, throws a nasty body kick, needs to work on her head movement and her boxing, but I know that she's constantly grinding, and we really should see some evolution in her game. She's coming off that loss against Miranda Granger. Miranda Granger, pretty solid fighter, so don't be too hard on her. Before that, she had her Dana White's Contender Series victory over Callie Robbins. So Hannah Goldie really needs to do something here. Coming in at a -200. You guys know how I feel about these female fights that are similar to this type of fight at these lines. I don't like these high lines like this. This is a fight that can definitely go any way. Although I will say I like Hannah Goldie to win this fight. I think we're going to see the best version we've ever seen from her, and she's just a very physically fit girl that when she puts it together, she could stuff the takedowns and just use her footwork to move around out there and whip some nasty body kicks and a couple 1-2s and kind of rough these girls up. I kind of see that happening here. Although she's going to be, at a 7.5 reach disadvantage. That's a little bit of an issue, man. Be careful for that. Belbita, a little bit of the more rangy, taller opponent. Maybe she can give Goldie some issues there. But like I said, man, Goldie is a very strong girl. She's strong in the clinch. I think that Goldie should be able to control those clinch exchanges up against the cage, which could look good for the judges' scorecards as well. So keep an eye on that. Goldie's a girl that you want to tune into. She's been doing a lot of grappling as well with this chick right here. Grab her name, man. You guys remember this girl from way back in the day? She was Ronda Rousey's little sidekick. She was undefeated at one point in time too. I'm gonna grab that name for you guys real quick. Here she is again. Oh, Maria Schaefer, right? I think it was Marina Schaefer. And this is a girl that's also a black belt in judo. So she's been getting a lot of work in with her. So, she's probably working that clinch and those clinch trips and whatnot. I always see her posted up with her. So keep an eye on that. I definitely got to side with my girl Hannah there. Hopefully she comes through. Not crazy about the line though. And Balbita's, her back is against the cage here. So figuratively, she needs to get a win here. So let's see what she could do. In the next bout, we got Sijara Eubanks taking on Elise Reed. This girl, Elise Reed, undefeated, only 4-0, making her UFC debut. Coming off a nice finish over there at CFFC. This is a girl, when you break down her tape, in my opinion, I'm not necessarily amazed at what I see. I'm not necessarily that impressed, but this is a girl that is a very tough chick. She's tough. She's scrappy. She can grapple. Definitely needs to work on her technique as far as her striking goes, but she's tenacious in there, man. She's looking to make it like a street fight. She's coming in, she's throwing hands, she's looking to slam you. So I do like her energy. There's a reason why the UFC is grabbing her with only a resume of 4-0. Sijara Eubanks 6-6 as a professional. That's crazy, right? A 500 record, but she's basically has fought as a pro only in the UFC. So in a way, you got to admire that. Coming off 2 losses against Pani Kianzad and Ketlin Vieira, 2 very high caliber fighters. Before that, she had the big upset against Julia Avila and took out Sarah Moras before that. I'm going to say that Sarge should be the more polished and more comfortable fighter in the octagon on fight night. This is a girl that's, like I said, has a lot more octagon experience. I think she should be able to show up, but you guys know how I feel about this line here. Not crazy about a -265 on Sarge in a spot like this. I think this fight is going to deliver in the sense that these girls are going to get after it. I think Elise is going to bring the fight. I think Sarge will be a little bit more technical with her boxing, her striking, and Sarge has underrated grappling too. So she should be able to hold her own with the grappling. She's going to have a 5.5 inch reach advantage. She's an inch taller, so Sarge is a little bit more of the naturally bigger fighter here. And I think that Sarge is a girl that's always been grinding it out and working on herself as far as becoming a better fighter. Rocking the Nick Catone MMA shirt. Remember Nick Catone? Nick Catone back in the day. Fighter up in Jersey who's been training some people up there. I think that Sarge should be able to get it done. I know Sarge has been working on her craft, and I think she takes out the UFC newcomer who also fought in Bellator. She had one fight in Bellator, her first professional fight, and she lost, but she's got to prove a little bit more to me. She's a tough girl, but I think Sarge should be the better fighter. And as far as the line goes, you guys know how I feel about the line. Not crazy about it, but I would expect Sarge to show up. Julio Arce taking on Andre Ewell. Julio Arce is a guy, been waiting to see him step back in there for some time now. Julio Arce. His last fight was almost 2 years ago, where he lost to Hakeem Dawodu. Very close fight, a split decision loss. Could have went either way. Before that, took out Julian Erosa and lost to Shaman Moraes via split decision there too. So those 2 fights don't go his way. If it wasn't for that, his resume would even look nicer than it is. He'd be 18-2. Julio Arce, he has a very much of a boxing based style, although he's well rounded. But I like his hands a lot. This guy is definitely willing to box it out with you. And what a coincidence. Andre Ewell is a guy that really likes to use his hands as well. Ewell's also going to have a 4.5 inch reach here. Ewell's always looking to use that reach advantage. Throws those nice straight shots. He's using his head movement. He's on his toes. He's willing to, he's very ready to circle and move around in the octagon. So this is a guy that I do believe can give guys problems in the division, Andre Ewell. a guy that, like I said earlier, I've had the pleasure to have on the show and chatted up with. Coming off a loss against Chris Gutierrez, a very tough customer. Chris Gutierrez is no joke. Before that, he took out Erwin Rivera and Jonathan Martinez. Lost to Marlon Chito Vera. And before that, he takes out Anderson Dos Santos, a guy that was supposed to fight. You know what? Sorry about that, guys, too. I was supposed to tell you because they pulled it off the Tapology. Excuse me over here. But yeah, the fight I was talking about was Anderson Dos Santos versus Miles Johns. That was the fight I was referring to. And Miles Johns actually shot me a DM because I put a little something for him on my story, and I guess he saw it, and we chatted it up a bit. And that fight's supposed to be taking place in a couple weeks. They're rescheduling that. So real quick, just mention that real quick. But again, back to Andre Ewell. This is a guy that's rangy in the division against anybody he's fighting. And this really has all the makings to be a very, very exciting, striking matchup. I expect these guys to box it out. And if Ewell can use his reach, I think that he can give Arce some problems. I think that he's a very, very live dog in this fight. Here's the thing, though. Take a look at the live line right now. Ewell is right around a plus 170, plus 160. There's some value there, I guess. If you like Ewell. The thing for me is that I've been impressed from what I've seen from Arce. I think that Arce is an underrated fighter. I think this is a guy that when he puts it together, can really give guys problems. How about his fight against Dan Ige? Remember, he took out Dan Ige and looked pretty good in that fight. I always joke about how they're doppelgangers. They look almost exactly alike. But listen, Dan Ige is no joke. And Arce handled him about 3.5 years ago, but still handled him here. You got to wonder a little bit about the layoff. Hopefully Arce's been keeping himself fresh in there. Ewell just fought 5 months ago, but I'm still going to go with Arce here. I just think that Arce, you break down the tape on him, he has better tools on the feet, and I think that's where this fight takes place stylistically. So I'm not gonna go against Arce based off something like ring rust. I mean, we'll see how that takes place. But if Ewell wins this fight, I expect the reach advantage really to pay off for him and for him to be using his head movement and to maybe to land some solid shots there and pull the fight off. But I got Arce. I'm taking Arce. In the next fight, staying in the bantamweight division, very, very exciting fight. Adrien Yanez taking on Randy Costa. Two guys that will take your head off. I've talked a lot about Adrien Yanez. You guys know about him. I've had him on the show. This is a guy that has nasty knockout power, and he just continues to go out there and show it. But let's not forget what Randy Costa brings to the table too, because Randy is a guy that will decapitate you as well. It's been knocking out guys over in Cage Titans before he's made his UFC debut. Loses his UFC debut to Brandon Davis, gets submitted there, bounces back with a nasty, nasty knockout over Boston Salmon, and also gets a knockout over Journey Newsom. So 2 knockouts in a row. This is an excellent fight matchup. Shout out to the boys Shelby and all them for putting this fight together. This is a perfect fight here. Both these guys 27 years old. Slight reach advantage, 2.5 inches for Costa, 2 inches of a reach advantage. But, Yanez he moves in the octagon, like he moves in there like hot butter. This guy is, I don't know how you guys like that analogy, but that's what comes to my head. He's like silky smooth hot butter in there. Great footwork. He's so calm. He's so calm within the fire, man. He's sitting in there. There's shots blazing right by his head, and he's just calm in there. He's waiting for that right shot. It seems like he just avoids shots by centimeters. You'll see guys come up a little bit short, and he's just, he's not worried about it. He's barely moving out of the way, and then he lands the shot that he wants, and he puts you out. That's going to be intriguing to see, though, against a guy like Costa, because, like I said, if you misjudge that distance and Costa just connects that chin, by a little bit, he could put you out. Awesome, awesome fight here. Costa's all over social media all the time, giving you guys content. So if you guys don't know about that, you could check him out. I guess this is the Dr. Pepper versus Reese's, 8 days out at the time. So we're a little bit closer to that now. This is a fight you definitely want to pencil in. Don't miss this fight. It's an excellent fight. And Yanez is coming in as a 2-1 favorite. And that's mostly based off of the hype of him just constantly knocking these dudes out and looking so good on the feet. I think the fight plays out a little bit closer than a 2-1 favorite. So some possible value on Costa here. You're going to see a lot of fights right around this line right here. You're going to see a lot of fights right around that plus 175, plus 165 range where they have a realistic shot to win the fight. But, maybe I think that these favorites should be the better fighters. So, for the most part, but again, we'll get into each of these fights, but just keep an eye on that line because that's a very familiar line you're going to see throughout this fight card. All right, but I got Adrien Yanez, my boy. Really cool dude. I grabbed him on the show right after Dana White's Contender Series, after that victory, and this guy was very down to earth. Maybe we'll get him back on the show and see how the limelight's treating him. If it's getting to his head, this guy's gonna start blowing up. He has potential to be a big fighter. So shout out to Yanez. Ian Heinisch taking on Nassourdine Imavov. Good fight here. Two solid fighters. Imavov had a disappointing performance in his last fight. Had that loss against Phil Hawes. Thought that was a fight where he should have showed up in the later rounds. But then again, Hawes has been really putting it together, and he's kind of resurrected his career. So maybe don't put him under the fire, like I like to say, too much there. Because Imavov looked really good against Jordan Williams, and a guy we'll be talking about here in a second. And before that, has been putting it together, finishing a lot of guys. Very, very solid frame for the division. Coming into this fight with a 4-inch height advantage, and he's going to have a 3.5 reach advantage. Imavov, a little bit more of the rangy guy there. Heinisch, a little bit more stout, a little bit more of a stocky guy. I like Heinisch. Heinisch is a guy, he's very well-rounded. He could wrestle. He could work the ground and pound very nastily. Like that word? Is that a real word? Nastily? But he could work the ground and pound very nastily in your guard. He'll sit there, he'll pepper you up, he'll smash you up. On the feet, he could definitely knock you out. We've seen him do that, although it's not something we've seen so much as of recently. But we saw him knock out Gerald Meerschaert there. Handled business against the Brazilians as he made his UFC debut. His first couple fights in UFC took out, I know he took out Antonio Carlos Jr., and he also took out another tough Brazilian, Cesar Ferreira, who's now fighting in PFL. But, he's been having a tough time, man, as of recently. Derek Brunson styled on him. Omari Akhmedov, who's since been cut from the UFC, took that fight there, and he lost his last fight to Kelvin, which you guys know I was on Kelvin there. I thought Kelvin would be on another level there. I think Heinisch is a good fighter, but he's not on a level of guys like that, in my opinion, and I don't really think that he ever will be. This is a guy that kind of headhunts at times. He's aggressive. He's a strong fighter. He could take out specific guys. He's coming into this fight as a favorite. I don't know. I think that Imavov should show up here and take this fight as a dog. I like Imavov. I think he's going to be motivated after that last loss to Phil Hawes. Like I said earlier, I think that Phil Hawes is a guy that's a little underrated right now, but maybe he's starting to get that traction, but maybe a little underrated at one point in time. And that loss is not as bad of a loss as some of the losses that I see on Heinisch's record, the way that those losses played out. I just have this feeling that Imavov is going to be really motivated here. Imavov has a nice jab. He has good striking and good control in the clinch as well. So it's I don't know. We'll see if Heinisch can show up here. Heinisch is a guy, does have some skills, but I'm gonna go with the underdog. I'm gonna take Imavov. Take Imavov to win that fight. But that's a fight, wouldn't be surprised if it goes either way, of course. Very solid matchup. All right, and the next fight, Punahele Soriano taking on Brendan Allen. Punahele Soriano, the Hawaiian fighter, made a name for himself on Dana White's Contender Series. Came into that show just throwing absolute bombs. Every strike that this guy threw was just a straight up grenade. Gotta love this guy's fighting style. You gotta love it. 8-0, still undefeated, coming off a dynamite victory over Dusko Todorovic. He was the dog in that fight. Dusko was a guy a lot of people were high on, and Punahele showed up, took the victory there. Stylistically, we just saw Brendan Allen get teed off on by Sean Strickland. So, you got to wonder, where that chin's at right now. You guys know I've been very high on Brendan Allen as well, though I do believe Brendan Allen is a very solid, well-rounded fighter. Solid grappling. His striking's not horrible. You got to like the way that he bounced back with the victory in his last fight over Carl Robertson. Pulled off the heel hook, made it look pretty easy. I would like to see Allen use his grappling in this fight, and I would really like to see him try to wear Soriano out, because Soriano is going to be going for some big bombs, and I've seen him get a little breathe a little heavy in there in the later rounds in some of his fights. But I think he really needs to try to work the ground game and close the distance, because if they sit there and they look to strike, although Allen might be more technical, I think that Soriano can easily land a knockout punch and hurt Allen bad in this fight. That's what he does. You do not want to eat a shot from Soriano. I like Soriano to win the fight here. Now, I could easily see this fight going to Allen. You know, when you got a fighter that I do believe is that the better grappler and has those grappling skills like Allen, you got to be careful there. But my gut is telling me Soriano. I like what I've seen from Puna as of recently, and I'm going to give him some respect here. I'm going to put some respect on Puna's name. You know, I hopefully he's still maintaining his shape and his cardio. Looks like he's been coming in a little bit better than I've seen him in the past. You know, as of recently, he's been coming in better shape. And look at him winding up over here. Whew. I mean, this guy throws bombs, I'm telling you guys. So don't be surprised if you see a knockout in this fight. Like I said, Allen was just tested recently. Soriano has been making a habit of knocking these guys out. Brendan Allen's been putting a lot of time over at Sanford MMA, and didn't look so good for him in his first fight in the UFC while he was putting in that work. Obviously, he got lit up by Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland is an amazing fighter, though. But I did not like the way he looked in that fight. And I'm going to go Puna. I'm going to take Puna to win the fight. I like that nickname, too. I like saying that. Puna. All right, we got Mickey Gall taking on Jordan Williams. Excellent fight matchup here. Mickey Gall and Jordan Williams, two guys that have won one of their last 3 bouts. Jordan Williams, the diabetic, the guy that doesn't cut any weight, so he looks a little undersized for the most part when he steps in there. He's a guy that had an amazing fight on Dana White's Contender Series, knocked out Gregory Rodriguez, who we saw in his last fight. Gregory's no joke, and we knew that going into that fight. Gregory was a big favorite. Jordan showed up as a dog, though. He will sit in the pocket. He will throw heat at you. He'll hurt you. He's a well-rounded fighter. We saw Imavov put it on him in his last fight, though. You know, Imavov really took the fight to him and wore him out there. And we're going to see how Jordan bounces back in this fight. Mickey Gall coming off a loss to Mike Perry. We saw Mike Perry getting some takedowns in that fight there. So, you know, you got to wonder about the grappling of Mickey Gall. You know, it's a little bit more jiu-jitsu based, but didn't really look like it against Perry. Perry was sitting in his guard and working the wrestling pretty well. Remember, Mickey Gall was a guy that really made a name for himself, taking out a guy like CM Punk, which is it's kind of funny because, you know, professional UFC fighter, and he's fighting a guy that I know I'd mortgage my house that I would take out CM Punk. So I'll put that on the record right now. If CM Punk is ever looking to make a return bout, the teller would sleep him in the first. And if you don't believe me, check me on Instagram. I'm going to start putting some content, some training content, throw some stuff up. Maybe even just hitting the pads a little bit. You tell me I wouldn't sleep CM Punk. Even though it's not saying much, because I'm sure about 70% of you guys listening would take out CM as well. But just to harp on that a little bit. But, you know, that's how Mickey Gall, you know, made his name in the game. If you guys remember that, right? Took out CM Punk, then, you know, took out Sage Northcutt. That was a solid win there. Sage Northcutt's not a joke. Has a nice submission victory over George Sullivan, a jiu-jitsu player himself. And then his last win was against Salim Tahari. But other than that, you know, losing to Diego Sanchez when Diego Sanchez can't buy a victory as of recently, that wasn't a good look. You know, we take a look at the live line here. We got, as of right now, we take a look at the live line, and we got Jordan Williams as a 2-1 favorite over Mickey Gall. So, you know, makes sense. Maybe a little high, but makes sense. Jordan Williams has good wrestling, good takedown defense, has all the fundamentals. He has that nice southpaw style, can throw that left straight down the pipe, and I can see him landing some shots on Mickey. And Mickey just hasn't been showing up really against any decent fighter. So why should we think that he's really going to handle business here? I like Jordan Williams, and shout out to all the diabetics that are out there. Any diabetics listening, I know Jordan Williams represents you guys well, and I like Jordan Williams to win that fight. I love this fight in the women's flyweight division here. Miranda Maverick taking on Macy Barber. The UFC is not playing around with Maycee. You know, Maycee was talking about she wanted to be the youngest champion ever. She's since lost 2 fights in a row. Lost to Roxanne Modafferi, where she had the injury, and Roxanne was able to get her down and just beat her up on the mat. And then in her last fight, she loses to Alexa Grasso. That was a fight I was on Grasso there. This girl, Macy Barber, a very intriguing fighter. Macy is a girl that, this is a girl, how do I sum this up? She has nasty power. She has these bursts of energy inside the cage where she could really, really rain down some damage. We've seen her losing fights before where she comes back and finishes girls. We've seen her, you think about even her fight on Dana White's Contender Series way back in the day. She was so young. You saw the tenaciousness of her and with the striking in the guard, throwing nasty elbows, just raining down shots. She's a solid fighter, but I think she could work on a little bit of her technique on the feet. I think there's times that she gets peppered up a little bit, and I think she could work on a little bit of her technical abilities. She's more of just a ferocious fighter. But I'm a little surprised the UFC is throwing her to Miranda Maverick here. Well, Macy's only 23 years old, and she just lost 2 fights in a row. Had a solid victory over Jillian Robertson there. Took out J.J. Aldrich. That was a fight she was losing. She came back to win it there. The Hannah Cyphers fight really put it on her. You saw some of the damage she could do. But Miranda Maverick is no joke. This girl, Miranda Maverick, extremely physically fit. She's physically gifted, very, very talented as a fighter. You just don't see a lot of fighters with this type of with this type of look, man. She's very muscular, and you see it actually. It's actually practical inside the octagon. It's not like she just is physically strong and she doesn't know how to use it. I mean, this girl's nasty. She's a very nasty fighter. I like her striking. I like her grappling. I like her overall game. So I'm a little surprised UFC is giving Macy this matchup, because I thought that they would have wanted to kind of groom Macy a little bit at her young age and let her get some wins under her belt a little bit after losing 2 in a row. But that doesn't seem to be the case here. So I think you guys kind of sense where I'm going with this. I like Miranda Maverick to win this fight. Miranda Maverick coming in right around a -150 favorite. And don't get it twisted. Macy Barber is a girl, like I said, carries some nasty power. She's going to be showing up to fight. And you guys know there's always that X factor when you have a girl that only just turned 23 years old. You're going to see major growth in her game. Even if she loses this fight, she's not going anywhere. I think that the UFC is trying to fast track her a little bit, trying to get her back in the win column over Miranda Maverick. But at the same time, if she loses this fight, they can just give her that rebound fight next, because if you give her the right opponent in the flyweight division, there's a safety net there. The UFC can easily give her a fight where she can go in there and just destroy somebody. I could pull up the roster. There's fights there for her, for them to do that. But they're going to give her a shot right now to go back into the fire and try to build herself back up. I think they want to market her and get her to a big fight soon. So a victory over Miranda Maverick would be very, very big. As you guys can see, I'm pretty high on Miranda here. I like Maverick to pull the fight off. I think that she'll just be a little bit more well-rounded. She won't be just as explosive in a couple moments in the fight. I think she'll be a little bit just more solid throughout the entire 15 minutes if we don't see a finish. Either way. But I like Miranda Maverick there to win the fight. In the featherweight division, we got Darren Elkins taking on Derrick Minor. Another guy that I had on the show, man. Like I said, I had a lot of fighters from this fight card on the show, so it's pretty cool. I've had the pleasure to speak with them. If you guys want to catch the interviews, they're all here. So, just look them up. Derrick Minor is a guy, very, very cool guy. A guy that's put his career together as of recently. 2 victories in a row. Took out TJ Laramie and Charles Rosa. 2 solid victories for him there. But if you take a look at his resume throughout the years, this is a guy that's very underrated. And as of recently, he's been putting in work with James Krause. And it's been doing wonders for his career. That's what he was telling us, and it's what we've been seeing. And he's coming into this fight looking to be in phenomenal shape, as hungry as ever. He wants to string off 3 victories in a row, solidify his UFC career so he's not going anywhere, support his family. I know he's got a couple daughters there, man. This guy's a stand-up guy, and he's taking on a guy in Darren Elkins, the damage. Let me tell you guys about Darren Elkins real quick. Darren Elkins, is a guy been watching forever. This guy is known to have some of the best cardio and best will in the fight game. There's stories about him in the gym just going to war with these Russian guys that were coming in. Over at Team Alpha Male, I believe it was too. Yeah, these Russians that were coming in, and there's war stories in the gym where this guy would just fight one Russian, then the next one, then the next one, and they would all rave about his cardio and his will. This guy just does not give up. Now, as far as his technical abilities, I've not been impressed at all. At all. This guy has some of the worst striking defense in the game. He eats shots like no other. See him all bloodied up here. I faded him in the Nate Landwehr fight. Capitalized, made some good money there. The fight against Eduardo Grigori, he was able to pull off that submission victory there. Grigori faded and gassed out, and Grigori's just not that good of a fighter, to be quite honest, not UFC caliber. And any of these other guys, I think, are going to start to take Elkins out. You see all those L's in a row anyway, even though they're big names like Volkanovski and Ryan Hall, solid fighter. But now you're going to see guys like Grigori, you're going to see guys like Minor, which no disrespect, because Minor's a solid fighter, but you're going to see guys like Minor take him out as well, and all types of guys. So if you catch my drift, I think that Elkins is on his way out. I truly do. And Minor is a tricky southpaw fighter that has solid wrestling. He has good cardio. So, the way that Elkins usually gets away with his victories is if he could wear these guys out and then look to grapple them and break these guys. I don't see him breaking Darrick Minor. I don't see it happening, and I think that Minor is going to be a step ahead of him in there. And I like Darrick Minor to win this fight. 71-inch reach to 71-inch, identical there. Minor a little bit shorter. I think Minor shows up here, and he's well-rounded enough to hang with the damage and then start to really hurt him in there, start to crack him with punches. I expect to see the damage all bloodied up. Mark my words right now. You guys can comment on my next video. Tell me if Darren Elkins was not bloodied up in this fight. You're going to see blood all over the canvas from him. All right, he has a habit of doing that, and it's going to happen again. So, only way the damage wins this fight is if somehow Minor gasses out and gets caught with something as they're grappling, or he starts to break him. But much respect to Elkins as well. No shade at him. He's a warrior that's been fighting for a long time, and this guy has the heart of a lion. So shout out to Elkins. No disrespect. I'm just and just to speak on that line too. Pull up the live line where we got Darrick Minor right around a -150, 165. It's going up to about -170 right now on a lot of your guys' books, I'm sure, if you check it. So I could see that line going up to like -200, -190 possibly. I don't know. Keep an eye on that line there. All right, in the bantamweight division, Julian Piva coming up from the flyweight division, which is I believe he's fought. Yeah, he's fought at flyweight. So coming up to the bantamweight division, which I think is the right move. He's a 5'8" fighter, nice and rangy. Add to the frame. You don't need to be killing yourself with the weight cut. Paiva is a very talented fighter, coming off 2 victories. Took out Zhalgas Zhumagulov and Mark De La Rosa. Now that Zhalgas fight even looks better after what we just saw Zhalgas do in his last fight. Julian Piva is a very, very solid fighter. Now, the loss to Rogerio Bontoran, that fight was just getting going, and he had a nasty cut that the fight had to be stopped by. So, don't look at that as necessarily a real loss there. That fight was just getting going, and had a split decision loss to Kai Kara France, a guy that just continues to win fights as Kai does. I like the bump up in weight for Julian. Excited to see how he looks in this fight. But Kyler Phillips is a guy that's silky smooth on the feet. The nickname The Matrix is so fitting. I love the movement from this guy. Nasty jiu-jitsu practitioner as well. This guy is a wizard on the mat. Very underrated with his ground game. If you guys don't know, he's been training BJJ since he was a young kid. A lot of people talk about his spinning attacks and his fluidness on the feet, but it's not just about that, man. This guy is a nasty jiu-jitsu player as well. So as you guys know, I like Kyler. I've made money on him before. He's been some official plays in the past as of recently. But Paiva, like I said, a very, very skilled fighter. Coming up in weight, it could really do wonders for him. Might be feeling better than he's ever felt. We might see the best version of him that we've ever seen. And, I'm gonna take Phillips here. Phillips right around -160. And gonna take Phillips. But this is the camp. This was the fight that was scratched. So no. So check that real quick. Aaron Phillips is. Sorry about that. Aaron Phillips, Kyler Phillips. That was another fight. We had a lot of fights that were scratched that MMA odds did not pull off yet. Excuse me, guys. So Kyler Phillips. They're messing with me here, guys. They're messing with me. They might not have this fight on the MMA odds. Here it is. Sorry about that, guys. Kyler Phillips. Sorry for the wait there. Kyler Phillips, a minus 260 right now. So he's actually a hefty favorite coming into this fight. So maybe some value on Paiva. Maybe Paiva could show up, make this a barn burner. But I like Kyler to win the fight. Like I said, I like Kyler here. And if Kyler gets this victory, that's going to be 5 fights in a row. He was doing his thing over in LFA. And victory over Yadong Song in his last fight. That was a big victory. This will be a solid victory for him as well. He'll keep the sticks moving. And look to have a really, really big fight after that one. Aspen Ladd taking on Macy Chiasson. Macy Chiasson, man. Oof, this girl. Coming off The Ultimate Fighter, this was a girl that I was very, very high on. When she goes in there and gets victories, sometimes she goes out there and she smashes girls. She looks phenomenal. And it really puts her stock high. She destroyed Sarah Moras. But, when you see Sarah fighting even after that and you see how she fights, you see how that played out. And we saw that Macy definitely has to evolve as a fighter. We saw the loss against Lena Landsberg. It was a real big letdown for her. She was a major favorite going into that fight. I know she cost some of you guys money there. But she did bounce back with 2 victories over Shayna Young and Marianne Renaud. But not looking as dominant as she has in the past. Only 29, about to be 30 here. About to be 30 years old. So coming into her prime. And she has a test in front of her. Because Aspen Ladd is no joke. Coming off that victory against Yana Kunitskaya. Finished her there. Aspen Ladd has very, very strong grappling. She's very strong in the clinch. Very technical. Good look at getting takedowns on her. She's always in the right spot, and she'll get you down, man. She'll work some ground and pound. I'm a fan of Aspen Ladd's. She's only 26 years old, so we're going to see her get better and better in there. I like Aspen Ladd to win this fight against Macy, but Macy is a talented fighter. Macy's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage. She's a taller fighter. Aspen Ladd is very, very stout. She's very thick, and like I said, it's hard to get in on her and get takedowns. She looks to be in phenomenal shape for this fight, does Aspen Ladd. She's always out there in the wilderness with her dogs. This girl has great cardio. She looks to be in phenomenal shape for this fight, so you better watch out for Aspen. She did have a knee injury a while back. Might have been after the Jermaine Durandamy fight. Or no, it was probably after the Yana. No, she had some kind of knee injury. Slipping my mind, but might have been a little bit ago. But either way, she's looks to be good and healthy for this fight. And I like Aspen here. As far as the line goes, take a quick look at the live line. She's about a 2-1 favorite. Like I said, a lot of the fights at that line there. Be careful with those women's fights at those lines. Macy is a solid fighter, working on her overall game. But I like Aspen Ladd to win the fight. All right, that takes us to the main event. I'm excited to talk about this fight. Cory Sandhagen taking on TJ Dillashaw. Dillashaw hasn't fought for 2.5 years. TJ Dillashaw was the reigning bantamweight champion. And he looked to drop down to the flyweight division to become a 2-weight champion, and he got caught by Cejudo. And then after he got caught, everything unraveled. Got caught for doing EPO. And a lot of people question his career at this point. Is this guy as good of a fighter as we saw him perform as not on the EPO? How is he going to look when he's not on EPO? That's a major, major question, right? That EPO, from what I've heard from it, from what I've studied and I've read up, it's no joke. The EPO is serious. You don't get tired in there. The EPO. Imagine you're a fighter that doesn't get tired. That's crazy. And a lot of people wonder if that little edge had something to do with him taking out guys like Cody, Garbrandt, even if you want to run it back, to the older fights. I don't think it really mattered, though. Renan Barão, I don't know, maybe did that make the difference in the Renan Barão fight? And then maybe did he destroy Renan Barão's career by just taking out his brain, and Renan Barão was never the same fighter? Remember, Dillashaw did a lot of damage to Barão in the feet. he couldn't really put him out, remember? So he was just teeing off on him. And Barao was never the same fighter. These are all questions we may never know the exact answers to. The only thing that we know for a fact is TJ Dillashaw's looking to make his return here, and he says that he's going to be the best version of himself that we've ever seen. We do know that TJ Dillashaw is so hungry to win that he's willing to do anything, including cheating, EPO, any of that. This guy is solely for himself and his fighting career, and you could take that as it is. I don't know if that's a negative thing or a good thing. I mean, the guy is just a solid fighter in that aspect as far as going out there and looking to win. Still looks to be in phenomenal shape. I love TJ Dillashaw striking. You know, the work he's done with Dwayne Ludwig over the years, the way he switches stances. Let's not forget how nasty he is there. Now, Sandhagen is a guy that's really, you know, he's looked to implement that same type of game style, that same type of game plan, that same type of fighting style, like the Dominic Cruzes, the TJ Dillashaw's, switching the stances, working the footwork. You know, Cory Sandhagen, a lot of people may say is the better version of Cruz and Dillashaw, a newer version, because not only can he move very, very fluidly, not to mention, you know, Cory Sandhagen's 5'11" with the 70-inch reach and has nasty jiu-jitsu. And, you know, it's a shame that he lost to Sterling the way he did. I really felt he would have took that fight if he didn't get caught early. But that was a major red flag, the way he was taken down. I think he just had a mental lapse in there. But you got to love the way that he's bounced back with 2 victories in a row. Took out Marlon Moraes and Frankie Edgar in phenomenal fashion. How about the flying knee against Frankie? Talk about Matrix for Phillips. That was Matrix. The Sandman, putting people to sleep. I'm a big fan of Cory Sandhagen's. He did let me down in that Sterling fight. I did have an official play there. If they ran that fight back tonight, right now, I'm all over Cory once again. I really feel that was a fight where he just dropped the ball and had a mental lapse in there, and he lost that fight. I do believe Cory's a better fighter than Sterling. You guys know how I feel about Sterling. A very solid fighter, but I can't stand how he's walking around with that belt right now, and I cannot wait for Petr Yan to eat him alive, which will happen. And you guys know that was a major play for me that I got robbed on. It was a 6-unit play on Petr Yan. Actually, 6.5. It was almost a max play at great odds. And we saw who was winning that fight. But Cory Sandhagen's a guy that will be making a run for the title, I do believe. Has to get past TJ here first. And I do not want to overlook TJ Dillashaw. This was the former champion. Never lost that belt, right? Never really lost the belt. Got vacated. And will TJ show up? Imagine TJ shows up and looks just as good as he ever did in the bantamweight division. Could be a problem for a lot of guys. I got to see it to believe it. You know, that's how I look at it. But TJ is a nasty boxer. A cool video you could pull up too, man. TJ Dillashaw has sparred with one of the best boxers in the game, Lomachenko. They've sparred together back when he was the champion, Vasily Lomachenko. So this guy is constantly working on his boxing. Dillashaw is no joke. Nasty wrestler. You guys know the deal. He was the snake. He was with Team Alpha Male and all that. TJ is very, very well-rounded, man. What happens if TJ starts working some wrestling and tries to do something that Aljamain did? I don't know. I would not be shocked if TJ showed up here. I'm telling you guys right now. Just understand that, okay? I like Cory Sandhagen, though. Cory is right around a minus 180. Pretty hefty line against a guy in TJ that's as good of a fighter as he is. It's just that you mix in that X factor of the long layoff, the EPO, and Cory also looking amazing. I understand it. Cory's going to be a little bit more comfortable inside the cage. And that's why I got to go with Cory Sandhagen to win that main event. So I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown, man. Shout out to everybody that rode with me all the way through this thing. Shout out to everybody that hit that like button on this video, that subscribed to the channel. Please do that for me here. I appreciate every single one of you guys. This fight card right here, I'm telling you guys right now, check me out. This fight card right here is a perfect card to make money on. It's a perfect card. Maybe not overall. There's some traps, but I'm telling you guys, there's a couple plays that the line is amazing, and I feel extremely, extremely confident. So I'm telling you right now, you're going to see 2 plays from me. At least 2 plays. Maybe overall you'll see 3 to 4, but there'll be 2 plays. I'll let you guys know which ones they were. I feel very, very confident those are the steals of this card. So I expect to make big money on this fight card. Anybody that wants to reach out to me for those picks, if you want to know my pricing and whatnot, shoot me an email. It's down below there. You can reach out to me through Instagram, Twitter, any of that. Shoot me a DM, and I'll let you know my pricing. But I'm telling you, this is the week to do it. I'm letting you guys know right now. But if you guys want to do your own thing, good luck to all you guys. I hope this video is a little bit helpful for you guys, and I hope all you guys make money. I hope we're all profitable out here. You guys all have an amazing week. Get on the grind. Go to the gym. Get your work situation handled up. Make sure you're bringing money into the home. And I hope you guys are all healthy and happy out there. Signing out. Teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.